In this video, we are going to go over how to find a missing percentage given a part and a whole, and we're going to do this using proportions. So let's go over some classic problems that I know you'll be exposed to. So let's check it out. We're given 14 is what percent of 20? Now when I read of 20, I usually add in the little word out of, because that gives me an idea of the ratio setup that we're going to have. So what is a little clearer, I think, in this problem is that we don't know what the percent is. So recall that the percent out of 100 is equal to the part out of the whole. Those two ratios work together to solve percentage problems. So the percent is what we don't know. So I'm going to let that equal x out of 100. So that's the unknown amount, the what percent. So the question is, what's our part and what's our whole? Well, some teachers teach it as the number near the word is going to be your part. They teach this as is over of is percent over 100. I don't like it that way because then there's no real math going on there. It's just memorization. I think of it as out of 20. All right, so we know that's the whole because that's the ratio out of 20. So I've got out of 20 here, and then that leaves us with 14 out of 20 is what percent. So we're basically rearranging the words to get an idea of what our setup is. Now from here, I just need to solve out the proportion to find x, which will be our percentage. So one thing that I notice is I can reduce 14 out of 20 and rock and roll from there. But before I go ahead and basically finish off this proportion, remember that to do these problems and get really good at them, stop at this point, go on to the next problem and set it up. And then go on to the next problem and set up the proportion, and so on and so forth. You'll get really good at the new part. Solving the proportion is the old part, which you'll go back to and practice through all the problems. And then maybe with the last problem or two, you're doing the whole problem out from beginning to end. It's a good way to drill this stuff and get good at it. Okay, so 14 out of 20, divide the numerator and denominator by the GCF, which is 2. So that's going to leave me with x over 100 equals 7 over 10. It's a slightly better proportion. I'm going to cross multiply. X times 10 is, of course, 10x. And that's going to be equal to 7 times 100, which is 700. So now we're left with a very easy division problem because we're going to divide to undo multiplication by 10. And I'm left with x is equal to 70. And then that is actually a percent because it's 70 out of 100 and you're asked for the percentage here. There you have it, peeps, all about the setup. Let's practice one more. It's going to be similar to this one. I promise you, you'll be rocking and rolling with it. We're given what percent of 72 is 93. Okay, so again, we've got the what percent, so that's a number out of 100, is equal to the part out of the whole. Okay, well, what's the part and what's the whole? Well, we're saying what percent out of 72? Well, that's out of 72. So the whole is 72, is 93. So another way of looking at this is 93 out of 72 is what percent? So 93 is the part. And you might say, how can the part be more than the whole? These words part and whole don't necessarily mean that the part is less than the whole. You can have many parts that are more than what we consider to be a whole unit, and that is the case here. So now we look to, well, we could simplify. I think simplifying this would be a little bit nastier, to be honest. So I'm going to jump right into multiplying. 72 times x and 100 times 93 is 9,300. We're going to undo multiplication by dividing. So we'll divide both sides by 72. And from there, I get a final answer, which I've calculated out. I've got it right here off the board at 129.16, and that keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. So what's our percentage? Let's round it to the nearest tenth of a percent. 129 point, we'd round up 2%, which makes sense as an answer because 93 is more than 72 by a decent amount. How much? 29.2% above 100% of 72. That's all we got, peeps. It's all about practicing those translations first, getting your proportions, then going back and solving them out.